Welcome back to Smoke and Mirrors. This is a series about what real, messy, complicated change work looks like, not just in Cleveland, but in modern America. I'm your host, Kayla Pincus, and today we have reached episode 4. After today, we'll be taking a break while we get back in the kitchen and finish cooking up what's next for our work together. Let's take a moment to reflect on where we've been. In episode 1, we explored the CPC's potential as a powerful tool for change. In episode 2, we celebrated a major win for the new discipline policy. In episode 3, we confronted the city's illegal actions to undermine the CPC's new commissioners and called for accountability. Today, I want to talk with you about the idea of patriotism and how it relates to the work we do in Cleveland's public safety. I believe a patriot is a person who is committed to their home, their community, a person who supports that community by cheering it along, and who fights to make it more perfect at every possible step. When our backyards get messy, we weed and clean it out so that it can grow and be a place we want to spend time and welcome others to join. Too often, in groups of people, we get confused by who the assets are and who the liabilities are. The phrase breaking ranks often refers to whistleblowers who call out injustice when they see it, those who call out people willing to maintain smoke and mirrors instead of seeing the courage it takes to keep a group true to its mission. Accolades and promotions come to those who toe the party line and who cover up their team's scandals. We take our messy backyards and we pile on new, taxpayer-funded flowers that we increasingly cannot afford to cover up our impurities. In my view, this is where it all goes wrong. We never give those flowers a fighting chance before the rot roots its way through, to say nothing of all the buds we didn't nip that got us to this point in the first place. So I found myself at a crossroads in my work with this commission, which is largely what led me to start the show Smoke and Mirrors, and I want to share it with you. We built this Ferrari, this beautiful vehicle to drive us into the future of public safety and policing. But as we know, cars can be dangerous if they're stolen and used as weapons, or if they go untuned. We could be driving this commission Ferrari through Cleveland, looking shiny and beautiful, when really we're polluting the city. And the community onlookers, unable to see the fumes, would be none the wiser until we find ourselves and our families sick down the road. Or someone can carjack us, and next thing we know, our own vehicle is running us over. This is what I feel is happening with the CPC. I am a patriot of this community, which makes me a patriot of this commission. But with the city trying to put crash dummies in the driver's seat and contaminated oil in the engine, I find myself with one foot inside and one foot outside the car. I'm going to venture to say that we all want our police leadership to have such expertise with the job of policing and our community that we can trust them to make policies and give discipline that's fair. The rest of us just mostly don't have the full know-how or the time to dedicate to something like this, not when nearly half of our children under 5 in this city live under the poverty line. We just don't have the time. But here's the problem. The system that we currently have for Cleveland policing is one of favoritism and almost entirely lacking in merit. In other words, we think that because these higher-ups have a fancy uniform and a badge, they know better than us. They make the rank-and-file officers, the people who actually do the hard work, feel the same way. And while some of these higher-ups have decent perspectives to offer, they just don't have as much to offer as they want to make us believe they do. And we would have no way of knowing the good apples from the bad, because they were largely not promoted based on qualifications that would make them good at their jobs in the first place. Did you know that commanders in Cleveland do not even have job descriptions? Few, if any, get evaluated once they're on the job, and most of them never leave their position except to retire or get promoted, especially in instances where the community finally catches onto their improprieties. Meanwhile, because they keep people in their ranks who should not even be walking the streets free, let alone carry a badge and weapon, they taint their whole brand. We would be fools to look at an organization that puts their bad apples on a pedestal, calls it patriotism and loyalty, and criticizes anyone who looks at them sideways. Some of you may be familiar with the case referred to as 137 Shots, where a completely out-of-control police pursuit of 62 cars that was all based on an officer's mistake led to the killing of the unarmed drivers in a hail of police gunfire, including from standing on the hood of the car. Did you know that a position was created for the public safety director, Martin Flask, to get promoted to something called special operations in the mayor's office? Or that Michael McGrath, the chief of police, was promoted to safety director? Or that Calvin Williams, the deputy chief of field operations, was promoted to chief of police? This case is what led to the Department of Justice's investigation into the city of Cleveland's policing practices, where they found a pattern of misconduct. Some low-level officers received discipline, while those in charge got rewarded. Are these people assets to our community, or liabilities? We so much want to believe that those with fancy titles are the best and brightest, those who should be making decisions about our well-being. But I don't find nepotism, favoritism, and cover-ups to be the foundation for leadership, no matter how it's spun. No matter how many flowers keep getting piled on top of the weeds as our foundation rots beneath. So, we return to our Community Police Commission, the one that's supposed to consist of our community. This vehicle we created to put a massive check and balance on the system. I want to tell you more about it and how it works, to remove some smoke and mirrors from what the thing is actually supposed to do. The charter amendment that created this powerful commission starts with a blunt acknowledgement of the past. Quote, "The voters of the city of Cleveland find, based on continuing serial instances of police misconduct, that there is a need to significantly strengthen civilian oversight of the police force and to hold the police force more accountable." End quote. This was never about small tweaks or incremental changes. It was about fixing a system that has been failing for decades, if not longer. The CPC consists of 13 members and, according to the charter, civilian members must represent, quote, "the racial, social, economic, and cultural interests of the community, including those of the racial minority, immigrant/refugee, LGBTQ+, youth, faith, business, and other communities, to reflect the overall demographics of Cleveland residents," end quote. The consent decree says, quote, "The Cleveland Police Patrolmen's Association, the Fraternal Order of Police, and the Black Shield will each recommend one qualified member to be appointed to serve on the commission." There are other requirements as well, which we spoke about last episode. This isn't just about checking boxes. It's about making sure the voices most impacted by policing, both civilians and the Cleveland police, have a seat at our table. But what really sets this commission apart is its authority. This isn't an advisory board, it's a decision-making body with real power. Here are some of its key responsibilities, directly cited from the law. 1. The commission has final authority over discipline. If police leadership impose insufficient discipline, the commission can step in and order the appropriate action. Its decisions are binding. This protects both civilians who have been mistreated by police, as well as police who are being disciplined because of retaliation or for calling out police misconduct. The commission has subpoena power to fully review these cases. 2. The commission has final authority over policy. One of the commission's most significant accomplishments to date is the creation of a new discipline policy for Cleveland police. This policy establishes clear, enforceable standards for how officers are held accountable, ensuring consistency and fairness. It eliminates the loopholes and discretionary leniency that have historically undermined trust in the system. For the first time, both officers and civilians know exactly what to expect when rules are broken. Because of this foundational fix, fewer cases will ever require the CPC's discipline hearings. 3. Public engagement. The CPC is tasked with engaging the community, gathering input, and ensuring that public safety policies reflect the values and needs of Cleveland residents. This occurs through a number of ways, including the work groups that community members can join to contribute their perspectives. This isn't just about holding police accountable after something goes wrong. It's about creating a system where things don't go wrong in the first place. Despite its potential, the CPC is at a crossroads. The city's current nominations process has raised serious concerns about the integrity of the system. If we allow cracks to form now, what's to stop them from spreading? What's to stop the CPC from becoming just another rubber stamp body disconnected from the community it's supposed to serve? As we move forward, we all want to know who is looking out for our best interests and who is just looking out for themselves. I want to share with you how I think we can clear the smoke and dismantle the mirrors with one of the best ways for us to do that. We need to follow the money. In 2025, the Community Police Commission is going to be a big talking point for the mayoral election as well as the city council elections. We need to stay vigilant as we watch what happens with the commission's functioning and who either chooses to back it or advocate against it. Let me give you an example of what I mean. There's a man named Tony George who has quite a lot of money and influence. As a staunch Trump supporter and the head of the family whose club bouncers regularly invent dress codes to keep black people out of their businesses, Tony George was the go-between connecting First Energy and Larry Householder, who was convicted in the largest bribery corruption scandal in Ohio's history. His son, Robert T. George, also known as Bobby George, has been charged with murder, rape, 4 counts of kidnapping, felonious assault, and 2 counts of strangulation, a case which has had no updates since August of last year. This is not a very nice family. While our campaign finance laws are so awful that we can't know in real time who is giving money to who, what I have seen are the campaign donations in the tens of thousands of dollars from the Georges to our mayor, Justin Bibb, just in this last year. Mayor Bibb ran in large part on police reform and his support for the Community Police Commission. He won his election by the same margin that we won the fight for the commission. But what we've seen over the last 2 years is that his actions in no way support the work or the functioning of the commission. And now Tony George says he's preparing a petition drive to take our commission away from us. So, does our mayor support this commission? To my genuine personal dismay, his words and actions seem very contradictory. As we try to understand who our political leaders are, we have to keep an eye on how they move their money around. The people who oppose this commission will try to paint it as a dysfunctional group of oddball misfits. But what they know is how much power this puts in the hands of the community if done right. They know that if we have our wits about us, we'll start to wise up to the issues surrounding our command staff lacking the qualifications required to be in their positions. We'll start to wise up about our black and women officers who are disciplined at a wildly disproportionate rate to our white and male officers. In 2023, women made up about 14% of the police force, but received nearly double that in discipline. And in a city nearly 2/3 non-white, nearly 2/3 of our officers are white. The new corrective action discipline policy that the Community Police Commission just passed is the first step to addressing these issues, and that scares people who want the same old power dynamics to remain in place. In 2019, the Cleveland police were recommended a version of this very policy, and they rejected all of the important parts of it. If it weren't for the powers the Commission has under Charter Section 115.5 or Issue 24 or whatever you want to call it, they would have continued to ignore us and go on about business as usual. This is why it is paramount that you stay informed and that we speak out to our elected leaders. We cannot give up. The CPC is a tool, but tools only work if we use them. Share what you've learned here about the CPC. Help your friends, family, and neighbors see why this matters. Change is hard and it's slow, but it's worth it. The CPC was created because Clevelanders fought for it. Now we have to fight to make sure it lives up to its potential. I want to leave you with a thought about patriotism, something we've touched on throughout this series. Being a patriot isn't about blind loyalty. It's about holding ourselves accountable. It's about caring enough to push for something better. A wise man once told me, "Justice belongs to those who desire it." That's what the CPC represents to me. It's not perfect, but it's ours. We deserve it, and it's worth fighting for. Thank you for tuning in to Smoke and Mirrors. Follow me on Instagram at Lil Struggles, that's Lil Struggles with a Z, as we continue figuring out how to create a better Cleveland. Take care of yourselves. Be safe out there. We'll talk very soon.
Thank you, Kayla Pincus, for your insight on the Community Police Commission. And thank you, the listeners, for tuning in to this week's installment in the series Smoke and Mirrors. Stay tuned right here on WOVU 95.9 FM. Our voices united, mission-driven 24/7.